then like to raise your hand. Raise it high and let it be raised. Okay. So I see some hands go up for some of your legal rights. But how many of you believe that you should know your legal rights? Okay, almost all hands are going up. Now this is the gap that we have, right? That it is important for women to know their rights. But how are you supposed to learn them and understand them? Laws are complicated. There are thousands of laws and there is no reliable information available out there. It is more confusing than clarifying. That is why I started Pink Legal, which is supposed to be like a Wikipedia for legal rights of women, where women can understand each and every right from cyberbullying to how to file a police complaint, to domestic abuse, to marriage and divorce, as if a friend is explaining it to you, not as if, a lawyer is telling you in very complicated jargon, but as if your best friend, who is a lawyer, is just explaining it to you. So that is the, gap, and that is what I try to fill through Pink Legal.
Thank you. I think the whole idea that we wanted to keep the women entrepreneur session, we call it Founder, together so that all of you can possibly, raise your voices, share your thoughts without having any kind of inhibitions, if at all there is. So please feel free to ask questions, raise your hands, raise your voice. All that is legally allowed here, if I can say that right? Yeah. So just Madhurima, if I can ask you the next question. So healthcare is a service-driven sector, right? And how can women, especially women, I'm emphasizing the word women here, can bring innovation and scalability without losing the human touch?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's on.
It's on? Yeah. So I personally think women bring a very unique lens to any business. They have empathy and detail, the two most important things. So innovation in business is, again, it's about scalability with systems. So scalability can be achieved only through systems. Just empathy will not work. Scalability and empathy together and strong systems is what will help you scale. So for example, at 10, so when you're talking about innovation as is, so when first a patient walks in, so there's a lot of high-end technology that's used in the clinic itself, and everything is very transparent for the patient to see, right from your digital scans to digital prescriptions. The patient can actually see what's happening with their smiles. So innovation in that sense can help you achieve the trust and also will help you convert people into, your brand and how you can actually retain them.
Yeah, I totally. So maybe I'll ask in a continuation of that.
Right.
Especially in the healthcare sector, the biggest thing is trust.
Trust, yes.
Right. So I heard you that one of the things that you use in terms of using technologies to find innovative ways of meeting up with your patients. So what are the other strategies that you have used in building patient trust and also on the brand for others to be?
Right. So firstly in healthcare, or more specifically about dentistry, so I feel trust does not begin in the chair. It begins before and also after. So how well you're able to explain to the patient what's happening with them in that sense, and also the care and the follow-ups thereafter, after the procedure is done. So I basically think of trust in 3 terms. One being transparency. The second is, first of all, when we talk about transparency, so when the patient sees what's happening with their smile, what the problems are, and there's no hidden cause. So everything is very transparent in that sense. And then you can also, the second I'd say would be consistency. Right from the moment you enter, right from your design to your service, everything has to be consistent. And if you have a proper model for that, that's where you reach scalability. And then the last, I think, should be empathy. That should be the core factor, because in healthcare, First of all, you just need to listen. You don't need to give people a lot. A good, being, allowing people to actually tell you their problems and then understand that should be the core of your practice.
Yeah, so basically it's about a transparency, it is consistency and the empathy put together. All these three things working together is what you think the trust is built with your patients. Mansi, if I can go back to you. So you were asking about how many people are aware of their legal rights. Maybe 15-20% put up their hands. So let's say what would be the 3 legal basics which every woman founder should be aware of when they are starting their venture?
Okay.
Because the other space is too vast and to ask about the overall women, legal rights, etc. From the founder's perspective, what would be those 3 things?
So from a founder's perspective, I don't think there would be a difference between men and women about what rights they should be aware of. So what I tell you now will be applicable to everybody. So 3 rights that any founder or any entrepreneur, not rights but I would say laws, that any founder or entrepreneur should be aware of. Number 1 is the importance of your incorporation document. Most entrepreneurs make this mistake. They have a brilliant idea and they want to take it forward, but they don't know what paperwork is to be done to protect that idea and how to protect it for themselves. So often it's a founder, it's a co-founder, you don't know whether you should have a private limited company or a partnership. So this particular incorporation document forms a very important basis of your company going forward. So that is number 1, never compromise on that. Number 2, protect your brand from day 1. So get your brand trademarked, get your logo trademarked. When you are selecting a brand name, make sure that you do a general IP check to see that this brand is not already being used by any other, any other similar brand, because then you will not be able to receive a trademark, and 5 years down the line, maybe you'll have to change the name because you will receive an objection. So this is number 2. And number 3 is about your tax compliance. So right from day 1, again, do not compromise on your tax filings, your auditing, and making sure that all your compliances are taken care of. Because you may not realize it today, but tomorrow, 2 years down the line or 3 years down the line, you want to get an investor on board. They are going to dig deep into every paper and every document from day 1. And if you don't have it in order, you will spend more time, more energy, more money in getting it fixed 2 years down the line rather than getting it right from day 1. And it could also cost you, sometimes if it's not in order, it could cost you an investor, it could cost you an opportunity. So therefore, have all of this done and clear right from the start, because if you believe in yourself and your idea and you believe that you want to take it forward and make it big, then make sure you invest in yourself and your idea in the right way to get it right from the start.
Just to articulate a little more on that, any instances with your clients that you've come across, people who have not been mindful of these factors and got into any of those, the 3 points that you, is it possible?
Several times. So a very big brand, 3 founders, 3 co-founders, they are friends who started a company together, and then 1 year down the line there were certain differences between them, but there was no clear co-founder agreement. So now it came down to a battle between who gets what. If one founder exits, what is the procedure? Can the 2 founders who are not agreeing with this one founder, can they make that founder exit forcefully or not? Or does it go into a deadlock? What are the kind of responsibilities? So this was one case of, like founders not having a co-founder agreement. There was another case of a brand which, a company which started a brand, and they continued to run it for 2 years. It was a local Hyderabad-based organization, so they felt that they don't need to do an IP check because they've just started like one store or one place. But then once it became more popular and they wanted to expand, they wanted to get into franchisees, They could not do that because they realized that that particular brand name was already trademarked by something else in the similar space, and therefore they would not be able to receive a trademark for that, which would affect their expansion, because you cannot do a franchisee without having a trademark secured in your name. So that was another problem. So these are common problems that founders will not be able to anticipate at the start, but they may occur later if you have not done your foundation properly.
Absolutely. I think the more you start interacting with founders, you will find all these legal systems or issues hitting them at every level of their growth, right? Yeah, so I think it's pretty important that we understand the legal systems right from the beginning itself. Madhurima, back to you. This is in general. Hyderabad is one of the fastest growing entrepreneurial hub in the country today. We all know that. So what do you think are some of the opportunities that women founders can possibly get to see in the state, from your perspective?
Specifically for healthcare or in general?
In general.
In general also.
In both, you know, whichever ways.
Yeah, right. So coming from my field, I'd like to say healthcare. I think people are now moving away from the generic sort of setups to a more personalized, experiential sort of treatment. People don't want the regular, people are looking for more personalized experiences in that sense. So I think niche clinics which will cater to personalized experiences will be one of those things that we can look out for. So apart from that, then you can also think of allied healthcare in that sense, like teledentistry and allied healthcare are also going to be big on the platform, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Mansi, would you want to?
So opportunities for women in general in entrepreneurship?
In the state.
In the state. Honestly, I don't think I'm the right person to answer this because I am not an entrepreneur. I can tell you from a legal perspective, but I can give you my perspective on entrepreneurs in this state, or rather women entrepreneurs in this state. When we think of entrepreneurship, we typically think of fancy offices, boardrooms, suits, and those kind of setups. But the other day I was at a panel where it was a panel on entrepreneurship, and outside we had a setup of pochampalli and other saris and textiles set up by women who had come from nearby villages and set it up. So that is also entrepreneurship, and I think that is something that we kind of fail to see, that entrepreneurship is not just about venture capital, or it's not just about financing. It's that opportunity that you get anywhere. It could be right from you are a very good cook and you can turn that into entrepreneur, you can turn that into an enterprise like a cloud kitchen, or you may be very good at knitting and you turn that into an enterprise, So entrepreneurship comes in various forms, not just in boardrooms and through VCs, but in any other way that you can bridge the gap.
Yeah, I think very true, like how you said, any of your interest, if it can go beyond a passion and treat it as a venture, there is scope for everything in today's world with technology and the whole ecosystem coming to help you in that space there. Like how Dr. Madhurima was saying, I think there is a lot of, today I was meeting up with a lot of women entrepreneurs who were pitching their ideas, and many of them were very specifically talking about carving very niche areas for them to be building. While there are giants, there are large corporates, there are big enterprises which are in that space, but I was amazed to see that there is people still wanting to find their space, which is very exclusive and possibly very niche. When I say niche and exclusive, doesn't mean it has to be premium. There is a problem that exists, and entrepreneurs, end of the day, are trying to figure out solutions on a commercial way. That's what Bawar is also about. Just before we put the panel for some questions from all of you, what would be one piece of advice? There's a lot of aspiring women entrepreneurs here. What would be one piece of advice that Mansi, you would want to give them, and after that,
So one piece of advice I would give to all aspiring women entrepreneurs or young girls and women out there is that don't let anything come in the way of your dreams. And I'm talking about this specifically in our Indian context, where even we, saw how the previous speaker, right, Miss Dr. Datla, she spoke about how she had to face several obstacles coming from a conservative family to be able to come and carve out her own niche in her career. And that happens to many of us. There are very bright young women, but their careers are kind of sucked out of them because of family pressure, societal pressure, etc. I would say don't let anything stop you. Don't let any of that be a roadblock, and have that fire in your belly and make sure that you chase your passion and follow your dreams.
Thank you. Madhurima, you.
Yeah, so for all the young girls out there, I think we've all heard in medicine and healthcare, they say prevention is better than cure. So I just like to add, a woman founder is better than both. So you guys, all of you out there, I think dream big, and like Mansi said, that's all I can say.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience here?
Don't hesitate.
Yeah.
I'll ask so how can the women entrepreneurs educate themselves about, I know the government and a lot of people have a lot of initiatives that are specifically geared towards women entrepreneurs. How and where can they educate themselves about the opportunities and advantages that they can potentially make use of? Thank you.
So I think organizations like WeHub, incubators or accelerators like WeHub, or other platforms which are for women entrepreneurship, they will be a good starting point because they will be like an aggregator which has all the information, rather than you having to go and Google and then check one specific scheme of a bank or of a particular department and whether it's matching you or not. I believe that something like a WeHub should be having this information available, and somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be a good starting point.
Yes, any more questions from the audience? Anybody? Feel free to ask questions. This is your time.
Can I? Can I?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So since the panel is about women entrepreneurship and all of that, but in the world of entrepreneurship, in the world of startups, is there any differentiating factor at all? If at all a woman is going and pitching versus couple of male founders going and pitching, is there any differentiating at all?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some stereotypes to that, but for me, I think now we're trying to sort of break through those. So nowadays, I think it's more limited than just being stereotypical like that.
I would agree. Being a woman does not hold you back, does not give you a disadvantage, but being a man gives you an advantage. So that is the difference. So you may not be at a minus, but as a man you may be at a plus, because already there is an inherent bias that if you are talking about something, you know what you're talking about. Whereas being a woman, you have to go and prove yourself first that I know what I'm talking about, take me seriously. And once you have crossed that stage and opened that door for yourself, then it is an equal playing field. That being said, that should not stop us. It is just a part and parcel of the journey, and if we have to take that extra mile, we have to. That's how the system is.
Wonderful. Wow, now there are some hands. There, yeah.
If a person wants to start up a business in IT industry, what will be the legal rights for them?
So legal rights, or you mean like the laws that you need to comply?
Yeah, laws.
Okay, so it is the same when you incorporate all of your, when you're starting a business, all the legal compliances that you need, like incorporating your business, then making sure your taxes and audits are done, you are compliant, okay? And for IT, it will fall under the technology. So you have Information and Technology Act and IT rules. So you will have to follow that, especially for IT business. Data is very important, right? We have a law in our country which is called DPDP Act, which talks about how any organization which collects data from customers has to process it, secure it, and how it can use it. So that will become another important factor when it comes to an IT-based startup.
With your app being legal, are you ever worried about sounding condescending to the women that are using the app?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an app, it's a website, and I also have a book called Legally Yours, which is an expanded version of the website, and it tells women about all their rights. We also have an active Instagram page, which I think all of you will really enjoy because we explain your rights through Bollywood movies and other kinds of like fun ways. And that is where we see people being condescending. Because website, obviously they cannot come and say anything, but when we put up reels, we put up posts where we speak about women's rights or women empowerment, there will always be that one comment which talks about how, oh, you are posting about dowry laws or about alimony laws just so that women can misuse it and abuse it. Things like that. And most likely these come from men, there is no guessing there. So they do happen, but we just ignore it because it's a part and parcel, and we don't want to put our energy towards, the naysayers.
But I also have a question, like, because you simplify the laws, and these are directed specifically towards women, are you ever worried about sounding condescending in the sense that, oh, women can't understand complicated laws?
No, not at all. I don't think this question has ever come up because it's not about men or women. It is about laws. Our system is like that where people cannot understand them and it have to be simplified. In fact, whenever I talk about pink legal, all the men in the audience are always asking me that can you make something like blue legal for men so that men can also understand their laws. So it's not about them thinking that women are not smart enough to understand.
Yeah, there's one more. Yeah, we'll take one more question. Can you?
Thank you, Dr. Madhurima and Manasi. Now that we have heard about the legal aspect and the healthcare aspect of how an entrepreneur should think like, we will quickly move forward to the next. And before that, just a couple of things. We would request the audience to kindly silence your phones because there's a disturbance. So it will be really better that you could silence your phones and we can have a more interactive discussion with the panel moving forward.
Can we get some fresh glasses and water?
Yeah.
Up next, we will dive deep into a conversation that resonates deeply with the entrepreneurs. Anyone wants to guess what's that?
See the beautiful faces here already.
Yeah, my question was, what is one that quality or one thing that an entrepreneur can resonate with? You can
Passion. Drive.
You
Passion.
cannot cheat.
Okay. Is it? I don't know.
Okay. Anyone who wants to? Okay. So we have two options: drive or passion, or maybe both are.
Passion. Drive and passion.
Founder says passions.
Okay, so it is how do you balance passion with purpose? And for that, we have excellent lineup with the next panel. Our first speaker is Ms. Shilpa Reddy, a multifaceted entrepreneur, wellness advocate, and a former fashion model who has carved her journey into building concise enterprises. She brings her creative vision and a commitment to sustainable living into everything she does. Thank you, Ms. Shilpa, for joining us. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Shilpa. Joining Ms. Shilpa, we have Ms. Amla Akineni, a celebrated actress, social activist, and the driving force behind the Blue Cross of Hyderabad. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking your time. Her journey from the world of cinema to social entrepreneurship stands as a true example of building with heart, where compassion and enterprise meets to create lasting impact. Thank you so much for joining us at the Bower campus, and we are really
And once I got that awareness, I immediately shifted because I used to buy hundreds and hundreds of meters of synthetic fabric per month. When I did the math, it was startling for me, and I did not want to contribute to that. So immediately I shifted my business and started using Indian textiles, promoting Indian weaves. And whether it is New York or Dubai or Paris or even in India at Lakme Fashion Week, I only chose to use Indian textiles and presented them in the most youthful way. So passion was there, but then if your passion doesn't have strong purpose that is backing, I feel it doesn't serve the purpose. And after passion, I started a school for toddlers. When my son was growing up, I felt children should learn without too much stress. And when you see today, like by 4 years, you want your child to read sentences, and that happens with a lot of stress. So again, my passion was to create a school that where learning happened playfully. The curriculum was learning through play. And we made it completely eco-friendly. Even the detergents and the floor cleaners that we use are natural. So you have to set the tone for your business. And passion cannot not be only the center point. You can't keep passion as center, as you said, keeping passion as center. Passion backed by purpose is most important. That's what I did in my life. Even at my foundation, Raising Shakti Foundation, we told ourselves that no flexis or no banners. So we have cloth banners that are reusable that we bring out every year and use. So you have to make those changes or have some purpose that will anyway drive your passion. That's what I feel.
No, great answers on that. I think at Power we are also learning it. How do you combine all this? The sustainability in what we do is something that at Power we're all figuring it's too early for us at this institution. So a lot of learnings, a lot of such successful ventures definitely help us to learn a lot from that. Amna. So for me, I've had great conversations with her. So it's always great to meet her. Every time we meet, it's always something other than new that we connect on. I'm from Kerala, and she has won the hearts of all the Keralites, I would say, during my own college days. And even whenever I post something along with Amna ma'am's name, I know all my friends group will say, can we meet her or not? So that's just to give you an intro on that and how she has, stolen all our hearts through the movies that she has been. And from then, you've been a dancer, been in movies, from arts to animal welfare to education. The journey has been about creating impact. How do you define the role of purpose in entrepreneurship?
Hello everyone. It's so nice to be here in young energy. I didn't expect Pawan to be so young. Hats off. Just goes to show how long I've been around. So many of you won't know who I am and you're wondering what all this attributes or tributes are about. So my journey started, as Kamal said, as a classical dancer. My schooling, right through my schooling and college, I was performing with the Kalakshetra dance troupe and traveled with Indian cultural relations across the world and across India. And then I had a career in cinema where I acted in 5 Indian languages. That's why from Kerala to Kanyakumari, from Kerala to Kashmir, they know me. So after that, I decided to take a sabbatical and I started Blue Cross in Hyderabad, which is an animal welfare organization. And now it's been 32 years since Blue Cross started, but my day job for the last 8 years is I am director of Annapurna College of Film and Media, which is a college that was started by my family inside Annapurna Studios. And we prepare young people for careers in film and media. So that's a little introduction about who I am. I've done many things, many different things. So how do I position purpose in passion? Right. I think it is a like 2 sides of a coin. Shilpa explained it beautifully. You can have a lot of passion, and I think in your youth you start out with a lot of passion. There's passion to see the world, to prove yourself, to make new things, to achieve, to meet people, to build a life. It starts off with a lot of passion. But can you hear me? passion alone will exhaust you. You know, you need to think it through, you need to find something it connects to, which is the purpose. So, nothing sustains unless you fulfill a purpose. You can keep trying to make a startup work, but unless it fulfills a greater purpose, the two are like two sides of the coin. Only then it becomes complete. For example, when I started Blue Cross of Hyderabad, we did a lot of things. And we had to address every single need of the city and the animal welfare situation of the time. And that was okay like first 20 years, but then we almost destroyed ourselves. And then we had to reinvent, we had to shut down, reinvent ourselves to see what was that one thing we could do among all these dozens of things we were doing that truly served the purpose of the city. And when we identified it, I believe it's a 2-year $1 million business nowadays, but we did it in 3 hours because we didn't have $1 million to spend. We reinvented ourselves in 3 hours, and we found that one thing that the city desperately needed us to do and that we could do well. But it wasn't just doing it well and doing what the city needed, it actually solved the problem. And I think that's truly when I discovered, oh, this is, it takes a minute. We learn all our life. But you truly find the purpose that fulfills a need and takes us to a better place. Then you're set.
No, absolutely. I agree with, if anybody has been to the Anaponia studios, the first time I met her, she took me to the studio, and it was amazing to see that the students, if there were, let's say, 30 students in the class, there were at least 10 dogs who were either sitting on their laps or happily roaming around in the class. Nobody had a trouble, nobody even bothered about it. That's how sometimes we learn to coexist. And I believe you have actually set a lot of standards and changing our own perspective about how to treat animals with a lot of empathy and how they can actually, how we all can live together to make a beautiful world. Shilpa ma'am, back to you. I remember some conversations with you where, I know you are very deep into culture, and I think one of the conversations which we had was about, I don't know if you remember it, when I said I'm from Kerala, you asked me about Theyyam. And she was getting into deeper, which I didn't know about Theyyam, so that after talking to her, when she asked more about Theyyam, I actually have never been to the land of Theyyam, which is Kannur. Later, I think 6 months back or something, I went to Kannur to see it because you asked so many questions that made me, being a Kerala, if I have not seen Theyyam myself, how can it be? So my question to you, ma'am, I follow on you on the social media handles. You often speak and do a lot of work around holistic living. How do you translate that philosophy of holistic living into the way that you build and run your ventures?
So what is holistic living? I feel it's just alignment. Body, mind, and surroundings or environment, whatever you want to call it. And one best example that came out of, like how we said, ventures out of holistic lifestyle. So I started my YouTube channel called Sustainable Living with Shilpa Reddy. So that was nothing but an outcome of wanting to share that knowledge with people, and it became a venture. And we had amazing people who had come on the show, including Amla, Nagaraj Nagaru, Diya Mirza, just to name a few, and many other entrepreneurs who were running their businesses with a sustainable model. And you won't believe the number of people who were clueless as to what they were doing and the kind of impact they were creating on the environment. They started to realize, just because some people have come on the show and spoke to the audiences about the little changes that you can do in your life, which had a huge impact. In fact, I got this beautiful, heartwarming message from a teacher saying that we're using all your content from your show as curriculum for our children to teach sustainability. That was like the highest point of my life, because what I learned, like, see, we can't be 100%, like, we are not activists. I don't think we can completely be sustainable, because how we have arranged our societies, like, we have arranged them in such a way that we can't go back to how our grandparents used to live. But we all can make changes, like carrying your own water bottle to begin with, not using plastic or whatever. So that is like thinking about your body, mind and environment is holistic living to me. And when I started to think along those lines, this venture of wanting to start a channel happened. When I started this channel, amazing people like Amla, Nag and so many other celebrities have come and spoken on my space, which impacted many people who didn't even know the mistakes they were doing. They started making few changes. So, but that one thought, made this venture, and through this venture, I could create an impact, like maybe small, drop in the ocean, but still it's an impact. And that's the highest point. So you can, with what you've learned, you can create ventures out of them. You can have an impact on people, and it's very fulfilling, like how Amra ma'am said. You might work for those numbers on your balance sheet, but if something goes wrong in your business, you will collapse if there is no strong purpose behind it. Once you have the strong purpose behind your venture, that purpose, the strength that purpose gives you to propel, even though you have adversities or some issues, challenges, you can go through because it builds resilience. So it is very, very important that you align yourself with the purpose of body, mind, surroundings and well-being of everybody around you.
Great. In fact, I was going to say that today there was, in the first half, we had some of the women entrepreneurs pitching their ideas from the school. And one of the theme was basically the space of wellness and the holistic living. So I was referring them to follow what you're doing, possibly. If the school has picked it up as a curriculum or the content in their teaching, I think there's a lot more for all those young aspiring entrepreneurs out here to pick a lot of thoughts up now. Amla ma'am, back to you. She was referring, Shilpa ma'am also was referring about, how do you get out sometimes, I can call it little uncomfortable zone or certain discomforts, or doing things that you passionately believe and still facing those challenges. But many women feel torn between following their passion and choosing something more secure. This is what I was referring to, the uncomfortable discomforts that people might. How would you guide them to navigate that, moving away from the secure zone of doing things in life? For example, sorry, I know from being one of the accomplished dancers to becoming one of the most celebrated film personalities, you moved into something which is totally different.
I think it's a lot about your upbringing. A lot of it comes from your upbringing. If you go into my background, I'm from a mixed family. So I have an Irish mother and a Bengali father. Okay? So there's absolutely nothing normal about that. Right? And both my parents were in the Navy. My dad was in the Indian Navy. And when you're in the armed forces or the services, you move every 2 years. So you're, moving to new places, you're uprooted, you form connections again, you make new friends, you go to new schools, you kind of wander around the country and you're there for a purpose and that's it. So there is nothing secure about being uprooted and shifted around the country, right? So I think it's got to do with the way you've been brought up. I think the other half is which brain is more active. If your creative side is more active, then you will jump before you even know what's there. Yeah, you jump first, then you'll figure it out. So I'm a bit like that. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be the first up the mountain or the first across the river and helping everybody else come. Yeah, so I don't believe in security, and truly, if you look around you and ask yourself, what is secure? Nothing secure. Marriage is not secure. Relationships are not secure. Jobs are not secure. The future is not secure. The rains are not secure. The environment is not secure. Your next salary is not secure. Forget it. It's a delusion, a delusion you've been trapped in. So the sooner you wake up to the fact that, as human beings, we have this intrinsic ability to survive and thrive and create value. So, yeah, I hope it answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good lead for the next question, Shilpa, about creativity there. As in, obviously, creativity goes with the heart and the head later. We call it logic, brain, whatever, thinking there. So, there are a lot of women. Again, I'm talking because we interact with a lot of entrepreneurs who want to set up their ventures, and women specifically in the creative side of businesses there are a lot of women who are wanting to get into lifestyle sectors or creative sectors. What does it take to turn passion into a viable business model? Because like you get into it now, what happens from there on?
So in creative business, because I've been on to the creative business because my side, that is the only one that works. Logic comes much later. And the business part of my, like the number part of my business is always, I've taken help from my husband. So yeah, when you're into creativity, I think the first thing is originality. You have to be authentic to the core and original like no other. The moment you are seen as borrowing ideas or trying to look like somebody, it is a complete disaster. So you have to have originality, especially in creative field. And there is an element of risk also, like any other business, but play it well. And for me, I feel it's mostly originality. And authenticity, why I'm saying is because though we're technologically somewhere today, still when you see an authentic person, you want to work with them. Though they don't have 1-2 degrees less than or not capable than another person, something about authenticity is very attractive. So be authentic, be original, that's very important. And work towards your passion without getting distracted. The moment you think that is in trend, should I change it? You have to be creating something where anything that you create, you should have your DNA in it. Like the moment you see some product, they should be able to tell that it is from this brand. So originality is the top thing. Only when people see authenticity and originality in creative businesses will they embrace you and your business can grow.
Absolutely. That brings me to what the question to you, Amna, is about. She was referring about the DNA that you bring into what you start, right? So you build institutions around the value. For example, the moment you hear about Blue Cross, there's a venture, how do you call it, a venture? You call it a social platform, enterprise. Yeah, so we know that your personal mark is there in the entire way that the whole Blue Cross functions. So you build institutions around your values, whether it is cinema, it is social work. What does it take to align personal purposes with professional success?
Firstly, Shilpa answered that question beautifully. I don't know if I can give you the perfect answer, but I will attempt it. you're all talking, and this, I'm going to talk to the audience, right? You're all studying entrepreneurship, right? And entrepreneurship starts with the concept of that you're working something for profit, right? But that's not my subject. All right? So I'm going to bring to the table something that is dear to my heart, and that's something I have always worked with, which is social entrepreneurship. All right? And social entrepreneurship is not driven with profit. Surprise! So what does drive us? And what drives us is this intrinsic satisfaction. It's a deep inner satisfaction that comes when you see your customer or your client or the people whom you serve have arrived at a better place and don't need you anymore. You know, it's like a parent whose child grows up and knows more than the parent and is achieving more than the parent and doesn't need the parent anymore and goes off on their own. So, coming back to the question of what sustains, we can only sustain continued service. So social entrepreneurship, which is from Blue Cross or from the college, when we, whatever the budget we need to raise, we have to go out and pitch it. And those who believe in us come on board, and then we execute it. And then if you're doing a true service and it's really making a difference, you look behind, there's a long line waiting for you to serve them. The minute you realize that, you know, nobody is responding, it means that, you know, you've got to go back and tweak it. Okay, that's the symbology of it. But you have to make things work, right? You have to sustain and you have to go on. So that comes, I think that's where sacrifice comes. And you'll be interested to know that 75% of employment in India comes from family-run businesses. Yeah? So every family entrepreneur or business owner is responsible for employment in India. And this gives us a different aura, right? You come to the table with a lot of responsibility. So what can you bring to your business that is sustainable, not just environmentally, but also for the business, for the employees, the work culture, the ethics, the values you create for others, the value you create for your employees, and the value you're creating for future generations.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Before I have a lot of questions on the other side. One last question from my side to both of you is, if you were to leave the audience with one piece of advice on building businesses with heart, what would that be? Then after that, we move on to the question.
I understand the value of health like no other, not because I fell sick or something, but I've invested 23 years of my life into fitness, physical, mental fitness also. So if you do not have health, forget entrepreneurship. That is something not many people talk about. But you must invest time in your health and well-being, mental health and physical health. Only then you can add fire to your passion or have a certain direction. You'll have the energy to get up every morning and drive your passion. So to me, all women should and must invest time in health, healthy eating habits, and also invest some time for your mental health. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you're not just taking care of yourself, but you're like running the whole, organization. You're building teams. So you have to inculcate that in your staff as well. And we spend so much time with our colleagues and staff more than our family, if you look at it. Most of the day we are with our, like colleagues and staff. So building good relations with them is important. Caring for them like the way you care for your family is very important. So health is top priority for anything. Forget entrepreneurship. If you don't have health, you can't even get off your bed. So that is from my heart. Please invest time in your health.
It's
Mental
like,
and
absolutely. And it's very true, as in it's like how when you fly on a flight, they say put your seatbelt first before you have to do somebody else. So before you sit into the seat of your entrepreneur, I think one of the biggest things that women, not women alone, everybody in that sense, should
so women neglect their health.
Neglect
so I'm, requesting that, put yourself forth and then, be a little selfish. Only if you're, healthy and sane, can you keep others sane and healthy.
Absolutely.
Nice, beautifully said, Shilpa. Because Shilpa has addressed that, I'm going to bring a different dimension to this conversation. So there is a lot of importance given to building things with the heart. All right? And I would say that's okay at a certain age. But when you reach my age and my leadership position, it's not about the heart so much as it is about being mindful. And I'd like to bring in mindfulness at this point. So there is a concept about mindfulness, which is mindset, and there is the different mindsets that you bring to the table. One is terribly insecure, that cannot bear to see others succeed, that is so petty and destructive. And then there is the other mindset, which is the daredevil, has the courage to try new things, is not afraid of making mistakes, picks themselves up and tries new things again, and enjoys others' success, learns from others' success. And then Dr. Carol Dweck, this professor at Stanford University, she says, be very careful when you understand the mindsets. Don't use it to judge others, or it becomes a false mindset. The mindset is that both these exist in each of us. And whenever you see somebody doing so well, and you have this, you're burning with jealousy and envy, and you want to rip them apart, you've got to tell yourself, oh, this is the petty mindset that I have. Instead, why can't I bring my better self out, my mindful self out, and see the brilliance of what they've done, appreciate it, and learn from them, and have this healthy competition where you say, I'm going to do better than that, instead of the negative. I don't think enough of us are aware of mindset or even work on our mindset. And that is what keeps us from building and doing great things. I also believe, this was a very famous quote. I'm not responsible for it, but I always repeat it. There is a special place in hell for women who don't support other women. There are too many women who pull other women down. Yeah? And I think there is a special place in hell for all of them. So, mindfulness, supporting women, we've been in the sidelines way too long. We've been looked over and ignored way too long. And there is no other way to change. Nobody's coming to save us. Yeah? There's nobody around except you've got to save yourself. You agree? Yes. The young lady in the back who was worried if you're pitching and somebody doesn't believe in you, you say, well, too bad, you don't see my value. I'm going to find somebody who believes I can do it. And then keep doing it till you prove yourself, and you'll find that person who believes in you.
Open it for questions from the audience.
Yeah, I'm a dude, but I'm playing Ash. I'm a student here with the answer, and I'm also more into the creative side. I'm also a Google fellow. I don't think before I jump in. So my question was, because I joined this entrepreneurial environment, and it's like more business oriented. What I came to realize is creative aspect, we tend to look beyond, like, how do I explain this? It's more emotion based and it's more connecting, and we tend to understand people, and that business is like, screw all of that, focus, and it's like a completely different mindset. So when you step into this zone and you want to give back to the community because you're in a position where you can, how do you balance both of these mindsets? How do you merge them together to produce the best results?
Great question. I know the way I speak sometimes intimidates young men, but you know, it's true. It's good that you hear it. Yeah, because just to do something you love or something you would like to do is not going to be a good business plan. So how do you balance it? I think I was speaking to Pawan earlier, and he said he delivered to over 1.5 lakh students in school financial literacy, right? I only became a leader when I learned to read a balance sheet and set it right. You have to have your numbers, you have to have your business plan, you have to have your numbers in place. Otherwise, all the tears and all the feelings in the world will just go down the drain and not serve any purpose. Okay? That comes from somebody who's been a long time doing it. You have to have your numbers. There's nothing wrong about getting the numbers right. Do your surveys, get the facts and figures. As important as it is to start something, it's also to do the survey, do the work that goes along with proving what you're starting is going to create something that's going to serve some purpose. Because ideas and heart alone are only like 2 pieces of the picture. When you say balance, it means actually bringing in all the pieces of this big picture that you are going to create value for your customers. Yeah?
We can hear you actually. Yeah. So my question is, just before that you were saying that the social organization doesn't begin with the profits.
very good question. So the old concept of social work was charity, but the current and the new concept of social work is social entrepreneurship. That it's not charity, it is something that you are giving back to society, and society will be able to do it on their own. So it's like financial literacy. That's the first thing. To go into a community, to do social surveys. These are, there is a 2-year MS social work degree that actually teaches you all the processes and all the project things to do. So it's not something that I can sum up just by one answer, but there are new approaches to how you come up with a solution. It's a very, very detailed survey where you have focus groups, you have door-to-door surveys, and this is how we also operate in the Blue Cross. You do all this groundwork, and then you come up with a project, and then you have to raise funds for a pilot project, and in your pilot project, then you have to prove the data has to show what you started out to do has happened effectively in that time and within that budget. And when you can prove that, then the donors come. And today, any social entrepreneurship, any NGO, any animal welfare organization has access to corporate social responsibility funds, CSR fund, which is 2% of all corporate fund, which is a massive fund. Okay, it's huge. But you have eligibility to access that fund only if you have those ratings. So you have to do the groundwork. And if you fail those ratings, only then you won't have access to the funds. So if somebody is saying, I'm not getting it, means that they've not done their groundwork. You can recommend that they go attend some training and, understand the new approaches to it. Because there is a science to it, and it's all very transparent. The audits we go through are 5-day audits, where the CSR audits are very thorough. Everything is audited, and you have to pass that audit to then be eligible for a donor.
Just adding to that, the FCRI regulations are so stringent these days. I'm on the board of United Way, so and one of the additional, the way to say it as compliance. It is not anymore that you want to do something, take the fund and use it the way that you want. Compliance is a non-negotiable audited system, especially the CSR space today. Any further questions before? Yeah. So.
Hi, ma'am. By the way, I'm Shirley. So I just have a small and a quick question. There is always a statement that passion and a successful career are two different things. So I just want to ask all our careers, for the minds who are here, how to align a passion and a successful career? What challenges may be the first thing I want to ask?
Passion, purpose. We kind of answered this question. But your passion doesn't have to be different from your profession. It is just like how Amna said, you can have passion but do the groundwork of what it can make a business out of the passion. So it doesn't have to be two different things.
Because there was a statement passed in society on like passion and success both are different, why do you want to work for the passion instead of that?
It's that's a common misconception. But there is an element of truth to it, which is why it's propagated. And the element of truth is this. Say, for example, maybe I won't take your example, I don't know all of you too well. But say Shilpa, okay? Say Shilpa wanted to be a designer. And she's a young girl, and she's wanted to be a designer, and that was her dream. But she was a very good model, and she was stunning. She is stunningly beautiful, and she's so well turned out. And she took modeling. Her career started with modeling, and then she went on to study fashion design, and she could promote her own brand. You get it? Say you take a filmmaker. A young student comes to learn cinema, wants to make a film, but nobody is going to give him 1 crore of rupees to make his first film or her first film. So she's going to have to go around doing some very good social media campaigns for different entrepreneurs. You've got a whole bunch of them waiting for you, by the way, at Annapurna College. Run your social media campaigns, do documentaries, create documentaries, do some, short films and present it. And that would be the stepping stone to then getting recognized and going on to their career. Does that answer you? So it's not always that you have a first step in the direction of your career. For example, when I started out, I've been crazy about animals since I was like that high. I rescued my first animal when I was there. I could barely talk. And I always wanted to be a veterinary doctor. All right? And I dreamed that I will have this huge animal welfare center, and I'll have, all this. But it turned out that I could dance beautifully. And I was this dancer in a troupe that went around the world, and I started doing movies, and before I knew it, I was this movie star. And everybody knew who I was. And but then one day, I could take a step back and say, let me do what I really, really, really dreamt of, and I started Blue Cross. But Blue Cross was never my career. It was always my dream, that I'd be able to help all these animals which are getting such a raw deal and so much suffering around there. Let me, create a space where we can help them. Yeah? So life unfolds in very strange ways. If I can just wrap it up. Life unfolds in very strange ways. But if we keep alert, we know when a door opens with an opportunity. Be ready when that happens, because they're not going to wait for you. Opportunity never waits. You've got to jump in when the door opens.
Thank you for that. One last question for the founder.
Hi, thank you so much, ma'am, for coming here and being part of the panel. I have one question to both of you. First question is to Amna, ma'am. You're talking about the school, Entrepreneur School, and here, in fact, I have he's Shashi, by the way. He's from Entrepreneur School. He joined as a graphic designer 8 years back when I first started Metamorphosis. Today, he's kind of a co-founder at Power. And so he started as a graphic designer, and later he picked up something on the technology business. And my previous startup, when it got acquired, he was on movies, the entire M&A. All of those things have happened. I'm sure, like Shashi, there are many students out there, right? They wanted to set up their own agencies and all of that. So, is there any way where you have interacted with them and tried to understand their entrepreneurial aspirations? Is anything that you are going in that direction? Or is there any way that Power can be one of the places where we can take up who wants to become an entrepreneur there and be doing something here? Oh, and yes.
Great suggestion. I'll keep it in mind. Yeah, I'm going back with a lot of things to think about. Wonderful to see you, Sashi. And I think now, because the college is about 15 years old, we are now seeing waves in the world around us. Because it takes about that much time, for that after you finish college or school, undergrad or grad school, you will need at least 5 years, and then you do something substantial, and then you see the results. So right now we're at that stage, and it's so exciting. This is the right time to connect when they've all done something and achieved something, and we will definitely take your support to make that happen.
Thank you. And Shilpa ma'am, again, great fan of your work. I wanted to just talk to you about, on behalf of a lot of our students, we have about 50 plus startups that are coming out of power. And every day we talk about, do we have this work-life balance? How many hours are you spending in building your idea? Sometimes, I work about 14, 15 hours a day in the campus. What is one best practice to keep something away from the work while we watch some movies and all of that? That is still okay. That is try to kind of we try to get distracted, but the other day there was one doctor who was running this cardiac rehab initiative. After hearing them, we couldn't sleep for the next 2 days. The kind of stress that we go through, the kind of will that we go through. Any one best practice to all the entrepreneurs for us?
Please work with cardiac, what do you call that? The moon cycle, sun cycle, like circadian rhythm. If all of us can work with circadian rhythm, your health will be, the top condition. I feel like today entrepreneurs are burning themselves out, not prioritizing mental and physical health. I'll go back to that again. I know you want to become successful, I know you want to make it big, but not at the cost of your health. Because in the first few years, when your body is young and energetic, you might not feel the burn. But once you start hitting your 30s with the kind of pollutants we are breathing, with the kind of food we're eating, with the kind of toxins that we're living in, 30s will be so difficult. All that you were able to do in your 20s, you will not be able to do in your 30s. And time flies so quickly. So please work with the sun, because there's a reason why the sun rises, we have to rise with the sun. Sun sets, we have to, go to sleep. When that rhythm is perfect, the way you handle your business, your relations, the kind of patience you have with people, the stress levels, everything is managed. Nature is so powerful. If you go in the rhythm with the nature, I think half of your problems are taken care of, because we are working against the timings, the way we eat, the way we sleep, the UV lights and all of that. Trust me, it might feel, like what is she talking about? We're talking about entrepreneurship, she's talking about circadian rhythm. But trust me, if you align yourself with that rhythm, you can do so much more instead of feeling burnt out, stressed out. We are seeing like 15-year-old boys with diabetes. Why? Why do you think? Because fundamentally we are doing something wrong, something against what nature intended us to work with. So you have to make this a priority for your life to sustain, for your businesses to sustain, for you to see success for a longer time.
Thank you.
Beautifully said, Shilpa. I'll add one more line to that. Often we think we can solve things here. We're forgetting that there are many other forces, right, in the universe. The time has to be right, you've got to have the right team, you've got to have the right perception, right? And you've got to have your right circadian rhythm going. Sometimes you're in this full imbalance and you can't really figure it out, and that's what's stressing you. Do some exercise, dance, swim, go for a run. If you use your body, within like 20 minutes of exercise, your brain gets flushed with all the endorphins that completely, reset it and give it all the nourishment and encouragement it needs. And then when you have a good sleep, you'll find the answer. Yeah, sometimes you just need to go out there and get some exercise. I hope you're all exercising. Yeah? How many of you don't? Put your hands up. Oops! investor will say, this is the one I'm going to invest.
That's absolutely. And to conclude, ma'am, I must say that this is one of the different conversations that we had here at Bhava. It was always about a balance sheet of a different kind always. It was all about numbers, what stage. The first question is always, what stage are you? You know, from 10 to numbers and, you know, when is your break events, all that. But here, like you rightly said, there's a different balance sheet altogether, which also we have to look at, take that pause to look at your own health, invest in that part of it. And like Shilpa ma'am also said, you know, how do you align that with some of those cosmic powers, you know, all that possibly would help. And there are proven practices which they both come up in the ways of aligning with that, and a lot of mindfulness in the way that we all do and need to practice if at all we have not started looking at things in that way. So there is a bigger purpose than doing business alone. There is much, life is all about much, much more. But however, you know, while we all start, or rather wanting to do something, that we wanted to build some ventures, it's a beautiful play to have between what your heart wants, your passion wants, and then how do you go about building it to be a truly successful venture, which solves a lot of problems that possibly is there in the world. With that, thank you so much. Amla ma'am is going to be here for some more time with us. Shilpa ma'am has to leave to another place, so we are wrapping up the session now. Thank you to both of you for being here.
Our next panel focuses on one of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs face, scaling sustainably while staying true to their vision. We are honored to invite Ms. Ekta Bhas, partner at Samvad Partners, and a leading voice in corporate law. Can we have everyone settle down, please, for the next panel? All right. I'll wait for a minute while everyone settles down. Requesting everyone at the back to kindly settle down so we can move forward to the next session, please. Okay, lovely. Can we have everyone at the back
Alright. Okay. Alright, now that everyone's settled, I'll give a fast action replay of what I just said. So our next panel focuses on one of the biggest challenges that all entrepreneurs face, which is scaling sustainably while staying true to their vision. So we are honored to welcome Ms. Ekta Bhal, partner at Samvad Partners and a leading voice in corporate law. And alongside her, we have Ms. Vinuta Nagar, a dynamic entrepreneur and leader who has helped scale multiple initiatives while championing women-led enterprises. We are also honored to invite Ms. Rekha Lahoti, a dynamic entrepreneur and co-founder of Mega Group. She has been at the forefront of building successful enterprises and is deeply committed to creating opportunities for women entrepreneurs across sectors.
Yes. I'm Rekha Lahoti and I'm CEO of Kalakriti India. If you've heard of Kalakriti Art Gallery, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'll make sure to cross-check the speech next time.
That's all the learning you do at home.
I said that very confidently, didn't I?
Yeah. I was picked up very confident. Your presentation is never go wrong.
I hope that kind of humor is acceptable.
Always. So for the next panel, I would request everyone's attention here so that we can quickly move forward to the next insightful session here. And before we begin, one thing that I noticed, Amara ma'am mentioned in the last panel that women support women. But you supporting our kids, thank you so much for that. I think that is something that we would like to begin with. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Thank you. That was the story. Okay, so quickly moving forward to the next panel that we have. The topic is navigating growth strategic insights for scaling women-led ventures. So you three have been there in your own respective industries, working on your ventures. So first, I would like to know, before I jump onto any respective questions, how has your experience been? And I'll give you one background. Last night when we were having a last final check, one team member just said in India there are less women founders. So with this, I would like to know what your experience has been.
I think when you look at it, I think every sector has its own challenges. Now when you look at, say, when you're talking about women founders, there are spaces you find several women founders. In fact, women founders, you find more women founders than men. But there are areas where you find the women founders do struggle and have challenges. So one is finding your space and then growing within it. I think for me, because I come from a legal background, we have set patterns that the firm, I think we're about 80% women founders. We probably have to count the men on our fingers. So it's not the other way around. And it's actually happened organically. So I've been very blessed to be in the place where I am and find support with a band of women. When you say women help women, with a band of women that I am associated with. So my experience, I think, is very different from probably some of the other industries. So
my work centers around women entrepreneurs, and this is what I do for a living, to work and support women entrepreneurs. So like Ekta very rightly pointed out, if you look at certain service lines, right, even CAs or company secretaries, legal, you will not find that there is much of a disparity. There are like good number of representation. But when you talk about, say, tech entrepreneurship, that's one of the spaces that we are way, way behind. And there are other, like for example, right now at VHub, we are working on the building and construction ecosystem and observing the discrepancies or misrepresentation of, there's hardly any representation of women in that sector. Forget about that sector. Overall, the entire ecosystem, only 3% of the funding goes to women entrepreneurs. So that itself is like a red flag, right? So yeah, I mean, we're still on the journey, so definitely we have come a little way, but we are just started, I guess.
Hello. I think there are a lot of
chit chat happening at the back. With me, the sector which I am in, that is art and culture. Kalakriti Art Gallery, you've heard, we're going to complete Silver Jubilee next year. So, you know, it's a... Thank you. So, see, actually, I think in NGMA Bangalore, I was giving, you know, I was in a panel again, and there I just, through this analysis, everybody was quite flabbergasted at what it is. So in 2002 or 3, when we started venturing into art, you know, retail art, like gallery, there were about just, I think, 10% of women led galleries in India. I'm talking about India particularly. And in 2025, as we stand today, we have about 94% women-led galleries in India. So if you look into all the gallerists of India, you'll find where I'm coming from. So yes, my field is quite comfortable, but I have a very niche field, so that we'll talk about later. Thank you.
You touched up on a point of misrepresentation or some women founders who are there, but they're not giving that space also. But whoever is coming, because you were there with the foundation stage. So when the women founders were coming, so when these women founders approach you with a mindset of getting funded or maybe to take your feedbacks, what are the common mistakes or some gaps or some learnings which you have always suggested to them?
So I've been working with entrepreneurs for close to 15 years now, and all these years I've been working predominantly with male entrepreneurs. Nobody said, why are you only working with male entrepreneurs? One observation that I've seen is in the last 1.5 years since I started working with VHub and have been doing things on my own, I get a lot of questions, why is Vinita only working with women entrepreneurs? So the problem is the isolation. The minute you call something women-centric or women-focused, it looks like the rest of the world just loses interest, which is a big problem, right, from the ecosystem point of view. But from the founder's point of view, I think that same thing kinds of extends. A lot of women entrepreneurs, I mean, imposter syndrome is quite common in founders, any which ways, men or women. But I think it's especially more when it is women entrepreneurs. Like, you just don't feel like you're ever ready when it comes to, say, a fundraise or, you know, a compliance mistake that a male entrepreneur would not even like consider. Like, for him it is like, like we figure it out, right? But a woman definitely will aim to make things perfect before she puts herself out there. So I think that is what actually hurts us more, this whole obsession with perfection, which we are used to in our, probably most of us are used to it in our personal lives, but when it comes to work, I think you will have to touch middle ground, where you have to give way to some level of agility and, you know, making a few mistakes, which is fine. I think that's what I keep telling them is, one is put yourself out there. Nobody is going to do it for you. If you do not believe you're ready for it, nobody can convince others about it, right? The second thing is, know your financials and know your compliances well. One of the areas that a lot of entrepreneurs rely too heavily on their teams of partners. Like, I have a great founder and she's built something amazing, all of that. But you ask her about members and she immediately says that my co-founder will explain. When I'm putting you as a CEO, if you're going to not know your basic members, that's a red flag for an investor, right? So some of these things are non-negotiable. And we make at VHub, as well as my work at the funding office, is to make all the items that we can possibly do to, you know, kind of erase those biases on both sides. There's a lot of bias from the investor side, don't get me started on that. But at least from the startup side or from the founder side, what can we do to make them more ready? That's what I work on.
Because you touched up on the compliance part, I will come to it, ma'am. For women founders, the first-time founders, I think I'll not be gender specific here because I know some males will also get it wrong or maybe the learning in the process. But for the first-time founders, it can be the compliances or these legalities can be a bit intimidating also. So what are the 3 basics if we have
have to ask, if we have to share to our audience, 3 basics that before they think about scaling, they have to get it right.
So let's look, if you tell a lawyer to think about numbers, we find it terrifying. So if you look at, especially as an entrepreneur, when you look at an entrepreneur, you're there looking at a product, taking it to market, scaling up. Now, whether it's finance, which is very important in terms of how you know their numbers, because eventually it has to stand the test of time, and you need to be profitable. You cannot be only loss making, because eventually then you lose the scale. At the same time, you also need to be compliant in law. And when we talk about compliant, there's a misconception that when I look at how do I look at compliance, what is compliance? To simplify things, we talk about how do I look at governance structures. When you look at governance, you're not only talking about which filing I need to make. You're looking at an overall mindset as to how do I look at how my operations are going to run. How am I going to streamline things? When you're talking about it, you're talking about how am I going to look at my numbers, how am I going to account for my numbers. At the same time, when I'm looking at compliance, of course, you know the regulatory compliance, which is filings, etc. It's important for you to understand who your regulator is. If you don't know what important laws apply to you, then how are you going to deal with your market? How are you going to scale? How are you going to consider everything? So it becomes very important for you to understand your regulator, your main regulator. Secondly, if I look at, I also have people that I work with. Now, how do I pay them? How do I engage with them? What kind of benefits I give them? How do I do treating them? This compliance is coming there, and some of the compliance comes from the law maybe, but some of it is coming from your own in terms of your organizational ethos. So that becomes part of it as well. Then I'm going to be dealing with external parties. I have my IP that I have to look at. So when I look at all this, I'm looking at how am I making sure I have a robust structure. So when I factor in and say that this is an important requirement that I need to factor in, things will fall into place. If you look at compliance, somebody else is going to take care of this. See, it's not my responsibility. As a founder, you're making the fundamental mistake at the initial, and fixing that as you scale becomes all the more daunting, and at times it can become very expensive. Because not everything can be fixed. Not everything can have a band-aid. Yes, there are things that you can do that. But if you start your journey and understand what does compliance mean to me, how do I look at compliance? I have compliance because I need to contract with a third party. Under that contract also have compliance requirements. So how do you look at you as an entrepreneur vis-a-vis your various business settings and your people, and have proper governance structures? Compliance will automatically fall down. And then it's no longer daunting because you're already prepared.
It is highly insightful, because a few of the points that I am also able to relate with, because we have daily interaction with the students about filings and compliances, and of course even internal also. So I think this is the basic checklist that moving forward and in operations you're also going to make sure. So thank you so much for sharing this now. The last point you mentioned about the team, the people, and the geographical settings, because you're coming from a niche background that is art and culture. How do you manage the financial viability? Because sometimes it can be, I hope I'm audible to all.
All the mics going to our own box.
Testing how loud I can wait. So I was like, in arts and culture, how can you make sure that your passion that you're building at Kalakriti is in sync with the financial viability there?
So when you come, for entrepreneurship, the most important thing is financial viability. So we are very, very strictly we look into creativity, integrity, as well as financial viability. See, art, this business is very, very niche, because it's something which one has to, for example, see, I'll just share stories with you because that will make you understand. So when we started our journey in 2002, we started collecting art for a long time, and when we had good collection of say masters, just citing out name like Hussain, Mehta, Raza, which you can. So after that we got into opening the gallery, commercial gallery. Before that it was just collecting of artworks and knowing about art, studying art. Art is just not very simple as such So you have like budding artists, emerging artists, contemporary, young contemporary, senior contemporary, and then the masters. So we started giving scholarships to artists so that the art fraternity grows. The journey began in 2004. We started giving scholarships till 2020. We gave almost 350 students scholarships, and we institutionalized it to various art schools all over India, whether it's MS University, whether it's schools here in Central University, JNTU, or Shanti Niketan, or the Jamia, all over India. Then we started, having collaboration with the French government to send, for a national hunt, we sent artists to France, the ones who were picked up. So it was a process. And then we, so can I make it a little longer because, thank you. So the thing is that then in 2010, we kind of expanded from emerging to masters. Earlier we used to only show masters. The gallery came to be known nationally and internationally more than locally. Because if you come to the gallery and if you see something going in 6 figures, you don't really understand where am I. So, that was the fun part. But that really helped us because the branding of the gallery became internationally and nationally knowing and then locally. So today people in Hyderabad are talking about art, are visiting the galleries. On Sundays also we get a footfall of actually 70 to 80 people. That's more on other days. So today we can say we are based at a comfortable place, but this was not the case earlier. So brand building is very important for creative field. That's all I wanted to do. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Touching upon that last part where you mentioned about the global exposure in a bit also, how can women entrepreneurs play a role in strengthening the economy when it comes to Telangana and India?
So as far as we are concerned, I'll also again share an example with you. We have Kalapati Art Gallery has taken up Sardar Mahal, which is very close to the Charminar, just I think walking distance from the Charminar, and that's a public-private partnership with the government of Telangana. And it was a dilapidated palace, which we kind of are restoring it and making it an art and culture hub. Now we get people from all over the world coming there and seeing your, your historical places at the old city of Hyderabad. And if you have something like this there, where you can have a discourse like this, you can have galleries, you can have coffee shop, you can have seminars, conference room, literally a place where it is an oasis of conversations and and at the same time you get to see some very beautiful art pieces. So we are like developing things like this. So in this way we can contribute.
Talking about development and contributions, I will come to Ekta ma'am. How are the policies in India regulating all these legalities and all supporting women-led startups?
So I'll divide that question into my response into two. So whether it is at a national level, whether it is at a local level, across states, there are several policies which give benefits to women entrepreneurs. And these depend, some are dependent on the kind of business you run, some depend on the constitution of the company, etc. These are benefits. But when I talk about other aspects, these policies will help you if you are there to take it. So it's up to the woman entrepreneur to know about the policies. And these policies, a lot of it, if you go to startup.gov.in, if you go to NITI Aayog's website, you have the information is widely available. Are you taking benefit of that? So second thing is when you look at it, some of this funding can be in terms of, a lot of these policies are helping you in terms of how you get capital. Right? So you have capital which comes from government initiatives, then you have private capital. So how do you look at your growth and where do you look at when do you need funding? Are you ready for the money? ready for this funding is not just in terms of, okay, fine, I have a great idea, now let me go get money. Being ready for funding, and I think Vinita will actually give you a lot more, because if you're not ready for funding, you take that funding, the stress it can cause, it can actually derail you. So being ready for funding, and ready for funding is not from a, that I have got 4 clients now, I have my compliance structure there. Ready for funding also requires a lot of mental resilience, because you're also taking money from somebody which you have to return. So how do you look at evaluate your capital? That becomes very important. And so when you look at policy initiatives, you have policy initiatives. Do you know about them to take benefit? And are you ready to take that benefit and the burden that comes with it? So I think that is what is important. And with the early education, when we look at women entrepreneurs, the biggest not in terms of the mind or the ability. You have great ideas, you have great resilience. There's a lack in terms of confidence that you have, and that confidence building becomes very important, because you always want a second check. Third thing is, I think, and this is something where, as a mindset of everybody around the market, this needs to change. Women and men run businesses differently, and we should not put women and say like a man be like a man. Women-led businesses will grow at a pace that a woman wants to drive. But she needs to be very clear that when she's looking at getting something from the third party, whether it's a contract, whether it's capital, how does she accept, how does she communicate effectively? And these are places where I see that because of lack of confidence, they're not able to get things.
And as a follow-up, I'll come to Vinita ma'am. Like Ekta ma'am mentioned, that you must have experienced a lot of women farmers who are coming, not just with financial viability or with the perfect legal exposure there, but in terms of the mindset, in terms of the risk-taking, the ownership, I would say, or the agility to learn more. Have you ever experienced? I think yes. We would love to share. We would love to hear your experience. Like someone who has left you also inspired, or you also know, like, an inspiration.
So what Ekta was saying is actually golden, right? It's not about. So there was a question a few years back on a panel I was asked, how do women be more inclusive? Okay, and I'm like, are you seriously asking women to be inclusive? Like, we are inclusive in nature, right? It's not about that. I don't think the world knows how women lead. I don't think it's an acceptable way of leading. We lead more softly, probably, or this is not studied enough. Women in leadership as a subject itself is not studied enough. So when we are leading our teams, we probably lead differently. We interact with our customers, maybe in this customer-centric approach, very customer-centric approach when modern world is. So while we can, of course, tell the women to behave or become like men when it comes to confidence, and we have to, because we are now working with an ecosystem of people who are used to that. But over a period of time, I think the transition should happen that women and men are not, and they lead differently. They build businesses differently, and it's totally okay. And when women build, it is a proven statistic that when women build and they get invested into, they get 35% more returns. And this is a statistic. But how much funding does go into women entrepreneurs? 2% or 3%. So there is like a wide divide in what. It's mostly perception, and it will take some time. In fact, that's exactly what I'm working on. I'm working on setting up a fund exclusively for women. Not just to put money, because there's enough money out there, people will put money. But building on all these things that Ekta and I were talking about, the confidence that a woman needs to go out and take somebody else's money, or not feeling like they're doing some ehsan, but actually that they deserve it, right? That what they are doing is nation building, that they enable other women, they in turn enable more. So I think it's about a lot of things. It's not an easy challenge to solve. A lot of hands are already on the deck to do this, and I think it still needs a lot more hands.
Very well said, ma'am. Thank you for the inputs. I think that mindset of ihsan is something that any person can resonate here with. So thanks for bringing that to the table. With this, I'll come to a question which is common to all of your respective industries and your experiences. What separates venture that stagnates after early success from someone that is truly
think one attribute, some of the companies that I mentored are now on their run to being, they're unicorns right now. They will hopefully become unicorns soon. And one attribute that I have seen common amongst all these guys are they're mad. And mostly all of them are men entrepreneurs only that are still in that list. So I don't have any women to add there yet. But they're like obsessed mad with them. They breathe, they think, they just have that in the center of their universe. That's one obsession. Second thing is, most of these people, at least, maybe it's just a personality that I pick to support, etc. They're all very paying it forward types. They were already mentoring other companies when they were in their Series A round. They put that back into the ecosystem. I think that's one common attribute that I see. And when it comes to stagnating, I think money is one of the reasons. When you don't plan properly how the money is going to be used, that is where you stagnate and it becomes a lifestyle business, which nothing is wrong with a lifestyle business. But it just loses out, like we were discussing this great example yesterday about hot chips. Hot chips, you all know hot chips? Guys, you know hot chips? Hot chips was such a revolutionary concept when it came out, right? In a way, like you could get hot chips anywhere. But hot chips was not born in the generation of startups. So it just gave out franchises. It did become a big business, but I don't think they really cashed as much as the current cash. So it's also about timing. It's about when you're building, how ready is the market for what you're building. So if the timing matches that, the stagnancy will. If with the right guidance, you will not.
Because eventually, there are, you see, and over the last year, we've seen a lot of scale unicorn and so you had external money, you're creating external money. So how do you look at external money versus revenue and be smart about that becomes very important. Because at the point where only relies on external money, you don't have the revenues and the cash flow for it, you will not be able to. So money management is very important. Secondly, also remembering that, especially with tech and industries that are related to tech, the life cycle of your product, the life cycle of your idea can change within months. Okay? So you might think you're great, you're going, you have great results until the next product comes in. So how are you agile to understand and have a grasp in the market becomes very, very important. And if you need to pivot, pivoting at the right time, at the right opportunity also becomes very important. So apart from what Deepika is saying, also you have to have the agility to move depending on where the market is.
I would say, as you said, stagnating. So in 2010, we realized that the gallery, people were coming less to the gallery. Then we started getting into emerging art. Getting like our nurseries are these art schools. So like going and connecting with the artists and taking them into our fold, giving them artist representation of the gallery, taking them to bigger shows like India Art Fair or the Art Mumbai or the Dubai Art or Freeze Art, things like that. So then growing the market, that's very important for an artist. So the artist and the gallery connection is like hand in glove. It's a very different feel, I'm sorry, but what I meant to say is that like compliance, like your funding, these aspects are very important as far as the art is concerned. Nowadays, as I can understand, I make you all
So if you know what you want to do and you know there are challenges of it and you understand the mindset of the regulator, you will be able to engage constructively with the regulator to bring about change in the law as well. So that becomes very important. If you make it your part of the psyche, you will normally get there. Second thing is communication. Whether you look at with the law, with regulators, or with clients, customers, vendors, whether it's always about effective communication and how you want to get where you want to get. In fact, there is a small thing of negotiation which has circulated. If anybody wants copies of it, you can either reach out to me or you can actually reach out to the Bauer team. We have kept it at the table. So please pick it up. It is like these little tidbits in terms of strategy about how can you prepare for negotiation. It includes a checklist which you can find from. So Harvard has a very, very good website called PON. You can actually go there. They have a lot of free data you can download. You have a lot of tests that you can do to figure out your negotiation style. The most one is the Thomas Kellerman model is probably the most effective one. So you can probably just go fill it out. There's a lot of data available. Anybody who wants to know more, ping me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to share more.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And as ma'am mentioned, I have to announce, but the copies are there at the entrance table, so make sure you grab yours and we'll get back on the topic again with ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Before we part ways, I'll leave the floor open for audience if there are any questions.
What will be your point of view or view for the people who think art is a boring subject?
Art is a boring subject.
So you have, 4 fingers, 1 thumb. All shapes are different, right? So everybody's thought process will be different. But then, if you believe in art, and if you are a creative person, and if you work towards it, if you think differently, you can create something and show that what it is, then people might believe you.
Everywhere actually, how we dress is art, right?
Absolutely. No, it's art is all about aesthetics. It could be any aesthetics. So this place also, like, it's so beautifully done. It has no paint, but still it's looking nice. So it's everywhere.
So it's about understanding art.
It's about understanding art. But art today, I would also like to say that the students of this age and are very lucky. You have social media. You don't have any complaints whatsoever. Earlier, people in 2000, people didn't have so many things. If you didn't finish your graduation, didn't finish your studies, and even for art, I'm talking about, you have to be out after BFA, MFA. Now you have something good, you put it on the social media, on YouTube, your eyes can be just looking at you and so you're much better placed.
Most of the people say that if you don't know English, you cannot start a business, and no one would be interested in it. Is it true? Most of the people say that if you don't know English, you cannot start up your business, and no one will be interested in it. Is it true?
English is a language. English has nothing to do with business. How many businessmen do you know? How many businessmen do you know? Around your house, so many business people are there? Wherever you stay? They're doing business, right? They're earning money, no? They're doing business. They're earning money. They're selling, they're buying. English is a language. So if anybody is telling you things like that, English will help because it's like any other, it's an acceptable mode of communication. That's it. It's like, do you know laptop? Do you know how to use a laptop? Yes, you should know because it might help you, right? But it is not going to it's not going to completely change everything. And just because I speak great English or I can use like laptop and AI the way that I use doesn't make me a great business person. Being a great business person comes from within. If anybody is going to tell you that it is because you don't know English, because you don't know tech skills or any of these, of course there are skills that you require along the way. But please don't take those skills. If that's something you've heard, you saw you heard that, but please don't take those skills.
I'll just add to that. So, India is a non-native English-speaking country. in English is only one of them, right? And if you look at the country, the number of people who speak English per se is a minority. It's not a majority. Eventually, also, if you look at other countries, if you look at Germany, etc., you won't have a lot of people who speak English there itself. Does it make you less of an entrepreneur because you have a lack of language? It doesn't. But what you need to figure out is that who is your market? Are you able to communicate effectively with your market? Why do we have so many ads in Telugu, Hindi, English, Marathi, Punjabi? Because you want to communicate with your end customer. So it's very important to figure out how you want to communicate to the people who matter for your business. Secondly, if you're making a pitch to an investor population, there are ways to communicate by you can get translators, you can get good, great videos which are made by somebody else. You can even figure out how to communicate there. So English is just a mode of communication if you need to, and there are ways to figure out. But most important for a business to grow is your business idea, is how you regulate it, how you figure out your market.
What will be the key factors you focus on while running the art?
Running the art gallery. See, your creative integrity is very, very important. How you develop your own language, your own narrative. Any way of expression, like there are so many mediums today in art, it's not painting. There are about 20 different mediums of art today. Whichever you follow, but you have to have your own language. You need to build your own language. Do not be a copy master. That's what I would say. Be innovative, be original, be your own origin story. That's what we see. So I'll also share something with you. I think our last time too. We've always been in search of good artists, right from the beginning. We always built a team, as Ekta knows us quite well, of researchers. So all over India, hunting for a great artist. So I'll give you this example. It's a very humble thing. There was this auto rickshaw driver in Calcutta, staying in suburb. He used to do this embroidery, very intricate embroidery, taking out threads from his mother's dupatta. The dupatta, the threads, it's very, very small thread. And he used to use a microscope, a kind of magnifying glass, to put the embroidery because it was so thin. I mean, this much of work, maybe 2 centimeter inch work would take him 6 months. So that intricate. So my artist team saw this and they said, ma'am, this is a very good auto rickshaw driver, but he is making something like this embroidery. So they bought our stores. I showed him in Kochi Binale. Do you know Kochi Binale, which happens every biannually, once in 2 years? So I showed him there. From there, he was picked up by Rene Museum in Vancouver. So I gave him 8 years of time to prepare that much of work, about 12 works, and his entire work was picked up by that museum. So you can reach anywhere today. You need to have that work and that passion in your work. Thanks.
Do we have any more questions from anyone?
Thank you so much for taking our time and sharing. I mean, in the panel, what I got to learn, and I think most of them have actually learned, is the legal perspective, of course. I think that was very much needed, the financial viability and the leadership that you've done in mentoring, and of course, how you can curate your passion into a sustainable business. I think this is the perspective because for our founders here, and again, not be gender specific, for our founders here, they will of course get some inspiration after hearing the anecdotes, the inspiration, the stories and all. So thank you for taking our time and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. Thank you so much.
say what they come out of that. I have interacted a lot with them. When I came to Hyderabad in the COVID time, and that business was down, I was getting renovated, business was down, and I had to manage it building it up in a year's time. And one has to look at different ways of building actual business, which runs into crores. So whenever I was stuck, this was the place where I always went. So it's not that necessarily you have to be an artist, but these spaces give you those nice good thoughts to create some revenue. Yeah, we are moving on to the final panel. Can we all come a little more closer? Those at the back, please come a little more closer to the front. So, before we start.
We're just waiting for our panelists to come in, so we'll be waiting for intermission.
Especially because, like Pawan said, we also deliver a lot of these entrepreneurial coaching and classes in schools. We figured out that women seems to be speaking more, wanting to do more, and we thought, why not take it one step ahead and just going into classrooms and making it something which is possibly good for everybody who's aspiring to be in the entrepreneurship space. So here, while we had a couple of sessions about creativity, legal, dentistry, we got people from different segments today. So this is going to be about business, and this is about leadership, which is very, very critical in every business that we do. This is about growth. This is about some of those initiatives and paths that founders often do, which not many people in the world today doesn't take. So if you can call it roads less traveled, whichever way that you want to call it. So we have a great panel today coming from different areas today. Somebody from, and even I met Sophia a couple of years back when I came to Hyderabad, and she was that age, she's still young, she was doing enterprise, started enterprise of her own while she was working, and today she has come off time and expertise in terms of some of the best of the launches that we see in the city is hosted by her. Be it any product, any category, especially in the entertainment space. So, for a change, I'm going to start with you, Sophia. The first question to you was, you have been in the space of entertainment and events, right? So how do you see opportunities opening up for women founders in creative industries?
So I'll tell you an interesting thing about women, especially in Hyderabad. I don't know if opportunities open up for us, but I think women have great instincts to nurture their passion and find industry as a result of that. So you have, people doing what they enjoy, from tablescaping artists to caterers, to florists, to PR professionals, psychotherapists, all industries dominated by women in Hyderabad, where I think by bringing their lived experiences and their talents to the fore, and by nourishing those, innate passions, they have found opportunity when there was none, and they've carved a niche for themselves, and as a result, I think people are now buying their products, paying us money for it. So by the simple act of just nurturing your passion, I think a lot of women have found successful businesses for themselves.
Thank you for that.
Especially education, yes. I mean, there is so much. These are the few things that came to mind because these are smaller businesses where, but as mom said,
Okay, we'll come back to you. I know, she's responsibility of all questions that you possibly have, and possibly there are explanations, answers that we can, guidance that we can actually come. We'll come back to you now, please. So, next question, Preeti. You are the new person in the group so far. You've led companies, right? You've led companies across various media, especially outdoor and other ventures. So how does it take to reinvent yourself as a leader? A bit of background about what you've done and how did you reinvent yourself as a leader?
So those of you who doesn't know me, I'm Kirti Chandralekari. I run a group of organizations. Two of my companies are successful IT companies. Another company we're talking about is India's biggest, largest billboard company, which is coming in Hyderabad. We are launching in October in November. Apart from that, I also I believe in girls and education, so I help them with scholarship and obviously an advocate for women entrepreneurship. Coming to your question, reinventing, it's like how you update your wardrobe, right? Like you change clothes every season, the trends, just like how the IT changes, you update your phones. Like that, you do a lot of stuff every day. But one thing that keeps you grounded is your family, your friends, and everybody. You should not forget that. Also, your core value is always vintage, so you should always remember it. Now, what keeps me rooted is the people. I have people working with me from the past 10, 15 years, and they are family to me. They've built their first houses, their cars with us. So I take pride in that. And I always, whenever I'm in doubt, I call all of them together, be it the pressure or the senior management who's there with me. I take suggestions from everybody. So yeah, that keeps me rooted, people.
Absolutely, it's about leadership. I think you connect a lot with how you deal with people is something that you would like to take on. Ma'am, now you've led across cinema, you've led in education, you've led in animal welfare, you taught a lot of things to all of us in all these spaces that you work. So what leadership lessons have stayed constant in all these journeys across various
My co-panelists are so young, I'm in awe, and they're speaking so well and so wisely. I think one of the, well, maybe I would think, say, the top five, the secret sauce. My secret sauce is like the top five ingredients. One would be, I always come to the table very curious to understand. If you listen to understand, you get more metal into the work. I think the foundation, a very strong foundation to the work, which will go perhaps a longer way, or at least face the challenges more prepared. I have a beautiful, since we're entrepreneurship group, I have one of my favorite examples of leadership was from a book where this leadership guru talks about a race to the Antarctic. There were two teams, one from Great Britain. At that time, the first team was a British team led by Mr. Scott, who was from the army, and he was an aristocrat, and all he knew was horses and carriages and, aristocracy. So he built up a team that then carted everything to the Antarctic, and the carriages stopped the minute they hit the ice and snow, and the horses died from the cold, and then they had to drag everything through the snow, and then one by one they started dying, and then they started dying of starvation, and finally we hear about the story from his diary, which he arrived at the Antarctic 3 months later, everybody dead except himself. Finally he died there leaving his diary. That's one example of leadership, which one would think, I know everything and I will plan. But then there is the other team, who was a Norwegian team, led by Roald Amundsen, was a Norwegian explorer. And he approached the whole thing completely differently. Him and his team, they sat down, they mapped the whole journey, and they studied the ecosystems in each journey and split it up what they would need at what time. They packed really light and they kept agile, a small team, and then they planned the snow part of the journey on husky sledges with the dogs. And when each spot they arrived, they had the next part of the journey packed and ready, waiting for them, so they didn't have to carry everything. And it was just such a drastic difference to the leadership he exhibited. And finally, the dogs kept them warm, so they didn't have to carry all these fur coats and blankets. The dogs kept them warm and kept them happy, and they reached there within just a few weeks. So that story always gave me tremendous inspiration that, you know, a leader is nothing but presence and purpose, right? You are just present to find your best team, empower them, encourage them, and be there with them, you know, to make sure they face all the challenges that they can. So, preparedness, mindset, curiosity, empowering your team, finding the right team, building the right team, and empowering them. I think these are my secret sauce.
Okay. Thank you for sharing the secret sauces with us. Pawan, now, as someone day in and day out, you meet people who are aspiring to their futures, right? So, and you mentor them, you help them to build their ecosystem. What leadership qualities are most critical? The question is for women.
Every day, basically, I'm from a place called Vijayanagar, near Raipur. Today, every day I give some updates to my parents. Today this is happening in my campus. I just talk to them for about 5-10 minutes. Every day while I'm coming to the office, while I'm driving to the office. Today I told my mom that, you know, there is FoundHER's arena. So she did not understand FoundHER. Then I told we are inviting some good women entrepreneurs coming. And she said, why am I not invited? I said, I didn't have an answer. Then she, told that I was the first one to give you 5 lakh rupees when you wanted to start your venture after your college. That time I had to fight with my family. Instead of joining the job or instead of going for a master's, I had to start a startup back in the college. Then she kept on, pressing on that, saying that I gave you 5 lakhs, I did this, I did that. But today you're calling all the ones, whom you do not know personally also you're inviting them. And I was like, then it made me to think that, then I was just imagining my mom is not even. What if she starts a venture? What if she's the chairman of board? How did that be? Then I realized that, the kind of leadership skills that she went through, right? Because we were three men in the house, and she was I have my brother, elder brother. He's a double-digit IIT ranker. He went to IIT Indian Statistics Institute, Kolkata. My father, again, he was doing a government job. And then I was more into sports and EAT and all of those things. So almost for about 20 years in our lives, she was the only one who was single-handedly managing the whole schedules of us. If I say that I wanted to become an entrepreneur, I used to go to her saying that, and then I used to show all my tantrums saying that, see, you guys are always, everyone wants me to do a job, why can't I start a venture and all of that. Then I realized what kind of leadership attributes that she had got in. I think the first thing that any entrepreneur should be having is able to take or handle the pressure. Right? I think that is the first thing that she did. And I'm sure as an entrepreneur, every day you will have about 10-20 tickets that will be raised on you, saying that there is a resignation that comes in, that might come, or there could be a rejection email from an investor that might come in. There could be the sales collections might be dipping down, or all of the things. I think ability to handle this, or the resilience is something that any entrepreneur should be having. I think women entrepreneurs would be doing that amazingly well. Handling, accepting the failure, handling the resilience, and the third one is calibratedness, right? I mean, everyone thinks that entrepreneurs should be having risks, taking that risk, but I think ability to having that or taking a calibrated risk is very important. Because whenever I go to my mom, she always tells what are the other side of doing things. If at all I say that I really wanted to go to, say, Europe trip, she used to tell me that, there could be the downsides that, what if one of you guys goes missing or what if something else happens. I think that calculative risk is something I'm sure women entrepreneurs do that quite well. And over the last 10 years of my journey, we had more than 70% of the people that I work with, because we are in the education space also. We had about women-led teams, quite a lot. And I always, go with the kind of analysis that they give. 99% of them are right.
Absolutely. I think thanks for being brutally honest about, one of those feedbacks, learning that you thought about your mom. I think you should capture this and send it to his mom.
She's watching it live, maybe. I don't know. I'll ask her more.
Yeah. Just to add to what you said, I remember one of those panels which I had earlier been part of. There was a woman founder who was into making all the kitchen accessories, and she was asked this question about why is that? Women had this inherent advantage of, let's say, making food, forever, traditionally, whatever reasons it be. But when it comes to food at home, it's women. And when it comes to chefs, hotels, wherever food is otherwise sold, it is men. Unfortunately, the number of women that are not there, and she was asked this question as to why is it like that. And one thing which she really said is, because the other had money, and this was not without money. And that could be possibly the only reason. And I thought it was quite right, just to add on to that, just to, a reflection on why we all have to jointly get this ecosystem so right for women entrepreneurs to flourish. It requires everybody to be together, not to see them separately, but a little bit more cohesive work is required in the space. Sophia, the question is, I've seen you as a event organizer who's done some of those beautiful, or continue to do some of those beautiful launches in the city. The question is, from there, you moved into a different line of work, which is into very creative, into writing, performances on the stage, right? So how do you build resilience in industries where, and I'm sure ma'am obviously has gone through this space, but I'm asking you as a young person into the space of, how do you build resilience in industries where women often struggle to be heard?
So, Kamal, first of all, I wanted to actually add something to the previous points that you made about women at home. Sorry. I think as I was actually watching a reel on Instagram with Vandana Shiva, which featured Vandana Shiva, and she said, in a capitalistic project, when you go out and work, you are paid money, but when you're at home and you're doing, all the chores that you're doing, nobody's paying you for that. So I think that's something for us to consider. And yes, what brings resilience? How do I bring resilience as an entrepreneur? Well, I think I'm going to answer this question in two ways, a little abstract and something more specific. For me, I think resilience comes from the lack of it. It's about being able to sit with your failure, with grief, and with defeat, because these are part and parcel of, being able to build resilience. And I think one life skill that proves very, very useful in this regard is being able to manage and process your emotions. I think we run away from the fact that we have an emotional body that we need to honor, and in that case, mental health is very, very important in building resilience, especially as entrepreneurs, because there's tremendous pressure. And the other thing that I would like to add to that is our generation is very good with this, with side hustles, and I think there's no shame in that. The world will make you feel bad for earning money, but whatever you do, you're expected to, have a sense of self there. That's fine as a long-term ambition, but if there's a smaller project that's giving you money, and you want to do it for it, don't be afraid to do it, because at the age of 21 or 22 or even younger, earning a little gives you a sense of confidence. I don't think there's anything wrong about that. So these are the two, things I would say to help build resilience.
Absolutely, that's quite deep. The absence of something actually helps you to create those. And you've done it so well that create pursuits on the creative space and reflect. You've been through that in one way or another, getting into the industry versus referring. So it is not about the industry per se, it's about how do you as a woman build that resilience and how did it. If I can add one more dimension to that question before you answer that is, women can pull into different directions between career, family, passion. So how have you navigated all these roles and still built that enterprise which we all are proud of?
Let me first acknowledge there are phases in a woman's life. There's a phase where you have to focus on career and making a livelihood. And I think what she said was, don't be afraid of making the money. And that's absolutely right. I think financial independence is the first commitment a woman should have to herself. In today's world, financial commitment is your first commitment to yourself. Forget about everything else. Make your living, stand on your own feet, because that is your foundation. How do you do that is your strategy. Because if you want it to last long, then you have to train for it, you have to get the skills for it, you have to have your stuff right to get the job done. Don't expect favors. That's a shortcut. So have your, all your skills and your training under your belt, and then go for it. Then you're unshakable, right? And I think that's how I was able to navigate, because I was a trained classical dancer, and I knew performance, I knew how to get the job done. I was a one-woman army. When you're trained in a troupe, there's no frills and fancies. And incidentally, when I arrived as a leading lady in cinema was going through a rock bottom at that time, because cable TV had taken over the business. Nobody was going to the theatre. It's interesting, huh? It's like now there's the platform wars, right? So at that time, and then cinema had to reinvent itself. I remember the 6 months lull, which no film was made, and then we were all called into the council meeting, and producers pointed to me as an example, saying she's a one-woman army, she doesn't come with a paraphernalia, she comes on time, she delivers and she goes, there's no frills, no fancies, she gets the job done. And that's when professionalism came into the industry. So you have to have your stuff, you have to, focus on it and make your mark. And that's how you push forward. There are no favors. And of course, I have to say that hats off to all the women who stood by me and made sure. And hats off to all the incredible technicians and directors also who were looking for that professional talent and gave me opportunities. And hats off
answer to my audience.
Rosen, I was saying, Kirti, you didn't still tell us what is that, the outdoor thing that you're going to bring to Hyderabad soon. Let maybe the secret's fine. But what advice would you want to give it to the women who want to expand from niche ventures and to industry-wide?
There's no secret behind the billboards. So we have hundreds of billboards across India. And when that gets placed, that's what you see at Times Square. Those big billboards, one of that is coming to Hyderabad and we are bringing it here. And about the question, I think the advice that I would want to give to young entrepreneurs or who are in the growth phase or maybe just started or have an idea, go network. Make sure you meet everybody in the room, whichever event that you go into. Right? Make yourself felt there. Talk to each one of them. Also, I would say that, there is one Netflix series that I recently watched called Inventing Anna. I don't know how many of you have seen it. There's a girl in her early 20s. She wants to build her own foundation called Anna Devi Foundation, wherein she wants to promote art and everything. Now, she doesn't know anybody in New York, in Manhattan, but she was at the right time at the right moment, and she made such good connections that she could influence the who's who of New York, Manhattan. And though she did all 100 things wrong, but that one thing that I took away from that particular series was the way she networked. I mean, she was there. So yeah, I take inspiration from a lot of people. So try to find out that people around you, which your husband or maybe some new joiner in your organization. Sometimes I talk to a lot of freshers who we hire a lot. So every day there are about 25, 30 people who are sitting for interviews in our office, especially in the IT side. So I talk to them. I mean, it's not more of an interview, but learning from them what they have learned from colleges and all of that, the new trends, the new words that they use. I like to learn that. So yeah, I mean, there's a learning from everybody. So my piece of advice is network as much as you can.
Super. So talking about networking, they say it is the network. And that's what they say. Pawan, I just want to take that question, rather that lead to you and ask you, how do you support networks and mentorship shaping the future of women entrepreneurship in Telangana? Because you started something which is quite apt at the right time and a lot of people need it. So how do you, as a mentor, as a founder, and with Pawan, play the role of helping people to network in the right place? She mentioned about the wrong thing somebody had done in networking. I think you could possibly understand.
Yeah, so anyone who knows me, they know how I network and how Power has started and what kind of value that we are bringing at Power. So one of the things that I always tell people is that if at all you have an idea, please don't be what you call confused about it. Right? I mean, I always say that go talk about your idea, go pitch. You know how many events or how many pitching events on an average are happening in Hyderabad? In Hyderabad alone, there are about 75 plus incubators. All we know is about the B-Hub, T-Hub, Power, and ISB and all of those things are there. But every college has not got an incubation cell. Every corporate has got their own innovation cell. So at least publicly there are about 75 plus incubators that are out there. And weekly, if Power can do about 3-4 events per week, I'm sure there are about 200 plus events that are happening per week, which are related to pitching competitions, which could be panels like FoundHER's and a lot of initiatives that are happening. But when I kind of talk to our students or when I talk to our team and all, hardly we are actually attending one event per month or say 2 events per month. So what I suggest is that gather all the repositories, right? And the herself hosts about 4 or 5 events per week. I think what is missing here is the access to also the information about these events. So if at all we all can put together that and then kind of create one simple open form that these are the upcoming events. I feel that the networking can start there. And how do you network and all of that? I think first you need to have a basic LinkedIn profile. You need to talk about what your vision is. And I feel that say today because I meet these many people, the quickest way that I do is I send a LinkedIn request for that. And then I just drop it and say send a nice meeting today. If at all there are any synergies, we can explore in the upcoming future. That's it. And from there, anything, right? Anything related to, for example, she's talking about ads, right? And anything related to out-of-home ads that I could think of, immediately I reach out to people and just say that whether I'm doing business with her or not, at least 1 or 2 insights that I might kind of gain from her. And I'm sure that's how we should start.
I think the ability to ask help for help, across, it doesn't matter how much successful you are, there's always a learning to come to. When you are asking questions, that too with a curious mind, you will find out what exactly you want to do. So this is for all of you, together as from a leadership role. Probably we'll start with you. Leadership roles often involves a lot of trade-offs. Leadership roles. Sometimes they say it's very lonely at the top. What are those trade-offs that we're talking about? So leadership roles always have trade-offs. So what do you think in your personal journey, which is something that all of us can be possibly mindful about, especially the aspiring entrepreneurs? Any trade-offs that you think and from which you possibly, your take on those trade-offs?
Right. I think one of the most important things as an entrepreneur or as an artist is there has to be a sense of, when you were talking about risks and you shared the lovely anecdote about the trip to Antarctica. I think it's very, very important to have a sense of stability, but growth doesn't happen there because the ship is safe at the harbor, but that's not what it's meant for. So anything great that comes from uncertainty, and I know that it's difficult and dangerous, and we are so used to having the path laid out for us. This is what I'm going to be at the age of 25, and this is what I'm going to achieve. Great. But those things start to erode away unless there is a sense of uncertainty that you embrace and reinvent yourself with every passing day, moment, year. So I think the biggest trade-off as a creative entrepreneur is risking stability and embracing uncertainty. And this is what great organizations like Netflix is, at the top of its game, because if you go through their culture deck, that kind of approach is what they really, celebrate. That's
awesome.
That's my anthem to just embrace discomfort. You can face the challenge and say, bring it on. We can do this. I think another one is maybe developing favorites. Oh, I love this. This is my favorite. This is my best. That kind of traps you secretly into your comfort zone. So I think being able to embrace everything the same, the failure, the fame, the success, the learning, the good things, the bad things, to be able to face it all with the same curiosity to understand and learn and grow and move. That
I feel is maybe I can add to it is the discomfort zone, but yeah, but it's a great great spiritual teacher, the Buddha has said the same. Said, and I have deep regard for the Buddha's teachings, that nothing in this universe is permanent. Everything is so temporary, momentary, right? And therefore, in this momentary, invite form those attachments, then you can face everything with the same attitude.
Absolutely. Attachments, these are all something that, especially founders, should be very mindful about. I wouldn't say careful about, to mindful about what to indulge, how much to indulge, etc. etc. Kirti, what was your view?
So many trade-offs come in. I think I've done it. Time, basically family time. I mean, I cry for it. Because there are so many meetings that are scheduled that I am unaware of, and I get to know at the last moment and I have to meet some head IT people or maybe somebody else. So missing that time with family, my son, that is very important. I love cooking for my family. So I mean that also. My husband, he loves me, so we are set for people. We are done for people. Like eating at home. That also the biggest trade-off would be comfort. So me and my husband are rule suckers. We always think that what's next, what are we going to do next. Most of our conversations are over also that. So yeah, these two things. Also one more thing. He is over running shoes, flash shoes. I love taking heels, but because most of the time when you're an entrepreneur, business group, when you hang out on the run, right? So I'm wearing flats right now. But I love wearing heels.
Yeah, so the personal things comes in that way.
Many are there.
Yes.
I mean, I could pinpoint to people. There are so many.
So before Pawan takes over the question, one of those things possibly he's still the eligible bachelor. You know, so I don't know whether that's a missing or a trade-off.
I signed up for it. So yeah, so I don't talk anything about trade-offs, but I would talk about how my perception is also changing. Right? I mean, I've seen one startup, the entire cycle of getting acquired also. I get started as a startup while I was enjoying my comforts in the company that has acquired us. I was very happy. I started working about 4 hours. But when I again started the entrepreneurial journey, then I realized that this is going to be a never-ending loop, right? I mean, for example, this month if we do, for example, X as a revenue. Next month, you aim for 2x, then you aim for 3x, then you aim for 4x. You will aim for $1.5 million funding in your seed, then you will aim for $10 million, then you will aim for $100 million, then you will become public listed company, then you will start another venture, right? So I think this is going to be a never-ending loop for if someone is choosing this path. So what I realized is probably going more focused, because what I realized is if I am spending 9 hours, the amount that I need to earn for 1 rupee or amount that I need to earn for $1 billion, I still have the same 8 hours, right? Or 8 hours or 9 hours. So now I am choosing the path where I can earn $1 billion over the same 8 hours. So I stopped entertaining lot of things, lot of freebies, lot of stuff that I used to do earlier. I stopped that, but now I'm really centered that 8 hour or 9 hour I'm spending time. I know where I'm heading. I feel that right now I'm going with Google Maps, right? In the journey that I'm pursuing. Earlier that was not there, and moving forward I think I'll have Google Maps with the voice note and everything, A to Z. Probably after 10 years down the line there will be someone to pick me up at the destination. So I'm getting there. So I'm happy.
That's so wonderfully articulated. I think I would say something, like you rightly said, the analogy of ship is not meant to be in the harbor. As founders, none of us are meant to be there. We have to take those steps of uncertainties, getting into discomfort zones, leaving away a lot of those, personal things that one want to do, and also prioritizing. before I leave it to the audience, just one last question. What would be one leadership mantra that you practice and you would advise all of us?
I don't know if it's a leadership mantra, but I think you shouldn't shy away from your me time and for nurturing yourself. I think we live in a world where, because it's a capitalistic construct, we are constantly thinking about doing, but a lot of heartfelt work comes from being as opposed to action. That comes later. So I think rest, rejuvenation is very important. How you approach it is up to you, but I don't know if this is a leadership mantra, but it's something that I definitely advocate for all leaders and people who are doing a lot.
Thank you.
Since I'm sure I've already been through leadership tips, maybe I can address in this question, I can address what is the leadership model you bring to the table, right? And I know the traditional leadership model is a hierarchy, like a pyramid, where the leaders at the top. But I was very delighted to hear Kiran Bedi, the ex-police commissioner, who, when she was talking, she was showing the model of a ship and how her model of leadership was more like a vehicle. And I had already presented to my team that, I don't believe in this pyramid. What a bottleneck. I mean, such an archaic, ineffective model. I trashed the model, always. And instead, I showed a circle. And I said, my leadership model is a circle. Everybody brings their expertise to the table. And leader probably facilitates and moderates, the best possible outcome, but taking everybody into consideration. And so I was thrilled when I heard Kiran Bedi, and I started to present my circular leadership model. And I think that's something that you can think of. What is the model of leadership that you want to, that works for you? Because I think it's unique. If you're leading a bunch of interns, then yeah, you'll be the boss. Tell them what to do. But if you're leading a group of extremely accomplished professionals, like I do, I have the privilege of doing that. Each one is extremely accomplished. And whether it's the Blue Cross or the college, they're all highly qualified professionals with years of experience. So we sit at the table in a circle, and each one presents their needs and their challenges and their vision, and we kind of create something that then serves the larger good, and the organization can sustain, a 5-year strategy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I believe that's women's strength.
Absolutely. 100%. Because it's not about ego anymore.
Awesome perspective, definitely. And I think from hierarchical to circular, sometimes you also call it silent leadership. How can you still not be talking and still lead it by the essence of living it the way that you see yourself as a leader, enabling, facilitating. That's something which is very important in an innovative space, especially spaces like creative. I'm saying wherever it is being created, this becomes an extremely working.
And just to add one more line to that, it's not that people don't need a leader, because highly accomplished professionals will work in silos. But get them to collaborate and then do the larger good for the organization, that is leadership.
There is a balance to this, always. What is your take?
What Sophia ji and Amna in relaxed rejuvenation. But when you're out there, you have to live it till you make it, right? And in such a way that people hear you. Make sure that every person in the room, they know about you and also you convince them that way. Another advice that I would give from my learnings would be that you should have two people very close to you. One is somebody who keeps you that high, right? When you're in your extreme low. Second, when you're doing really good, you have $1 million contract or whatever, you should have that one person who gives you honest feedback that you were very, very bad at that thing. So keep those two people very close to you, because that's how you will keep yourself grounded. Also, at the same time, you know what needs to be done next, and those are like the two people on your hospital. Yeah.
No, absolutely, point taken. I used to run a radio station, and we used to do a lot of surveys in terms of picking up the songs. So we come back and say this is a set of songs which is to the speedy, etc. And but the owner, the founder, will come back and say, "You've not added this song." So finally, we used to ask him, "How do you find these songs? You don't understand the language, but how did you use it?" He says, "Every time when I come to the office, I talk to my driver, and he knows exactly what is in the system and what it's about music." So I think these feedback systems all comes in from various sources.
Another thing, I know it might sound silly, like whenever I used to walk into rooms where age-wise there was older than me, and I used to be very young, like I was in my early 30s. So few times I did not take my suggestions very seriously, because I am also an event director, so I sit on the boards. So I started very young. And going to that meeting, so that I don't know how much people started taking me seriously. So yeah, things like that also work. Yeah, perception.
I really want to talk about the new age leadership. Actually, you're an encyclopedia. I mean, I've been interacting with ma'am for the past 3 years. Already thought about it, or she's already implementing it. I tried to bounce so many ideas. Then she has a plan already. She already has repository in place. So I mean, big round of applause for her. I actually did not open up so much. Today I'm loving the entire environment about it. Talking about leadership, I think my way is, at least for the new age leadership that I wanted to do, is being transparent. Right? I mean, I always be transparent. I always tell what's left in the bank account, how much unpaid that we have got, and how much we have done collections. In fact, I bring everyone to town halls, so we do town hall meetings. I openly talk about, this is the burn that we had, this is the competitors' burn that they have had, and then everyone, because we have to practice what we preach. We teach entrepreneurship, so I expect everyone to think entrepreneurial. And that is why I say that you as an entrepreneur, if you are an investor in Bauer, how would you feel about this number that we have done this month? How would you feel about this initiative that we are planning to do? How would you think about this new person that we are planning to hire? So I always be very transparent, and probably that is why, in fact, my team is also very open with me. They come to me, they always talk about certain things. So I think transparency is the leadership style that I follow.
I absolutely subscribe with what Pavan said, because I see that always getting action in this space. So, great leadership style. Now, some questions from the audience we can quickly take. Anybody like to ask questions?
Yeah, so good evening everyone. I'm so delighted to be in your presence. I am a huge admirer of women leadership, and that is also one of the reasons I admire Pavan as well, because he's one of those guys who have always helped women especially you have been associated with Power for quite some time, and he's been very encouraging in that regard. One thing which I wanted to, ask all three of you, you're wonderful ladies and you have accomplished so much. As a women, we bring something which is I feel that a women leader has the most, that's empathy. So I just wanted to ask you guys, like, do you also think that this is something that kind of separate us from the rest of, because I feel in my profession that empathy has helped me a lot. But I just wanted to hear it from you guys, like, how's the empathy part? Does it separate us? Is it in strength that we have? Because as a women, we are mothers. We are the ones who have to, at some point of time in our life, we have to step into the shoes of maybe understanding our husband or our kids. We play that role. So, but as leaders, that's the kind of strength. So I just wanted to hear it from you guys. That is it something that you guys would like to share some of your insights about?
Empathy and sympathy both. Many a times in our office, there are specialists who work from very meager background. Recently, I've hired a person whose father is a wage labor, single parent. We have hired him not just because of sympathy, but to make sure that we kind of make sure that he survives in the company first thing, and second, makes his career from there. There are many people who joined our organization, might have left and they started their own also doing well. So, sympathy and empathy both. I mean, I'm also the chairperson for WeConnect International, where we empower a lot of women entrepreneurs who are starting on their idea stage. And what WeConnect does basically, what we do is we connect these women entrepreneurs to the right buyers. So there are about 200 world global leaders from Microsoft, Walmart, various different industries. So what we do is we kind of make the match. So we have events that we do. So right now, yeah, there are so many stories that I can share with them.
So I'm going to give a different angle to this, and while empathy, I do believe, is a very strong building block, I think a very sound set of values is more important than just empathy alone. And this sound set of values, values and the ways we need to operate in this world keeps changing as the way the world changes. Like you have a software that needs an updating. There are terminologies and approaches that need updating. There is language that needs updating. In the past, there were words that were used that were acceptable. Today it's absolutely not on, right? So from that perspective, today, equity, diversity and inclusiveness is the foundation. So I would rather go with that terminology, and I would never use the word help. Use the word support. Because it's a give and take. You come with your set of skills and your power to the table, and somebody gives you support to get started, and you will pass that support on to somebody else. So I think updating the words and terminology stand very strong on the floor, that I'm not feeling picky and giving you a job or an opportunity. I appreciate your skills and I will support you to prove your worth or to prove your mettle. And I think those kind of things are important for us to
update ourselves and, you know, lay the pathway forward. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's actually it's a very it's a very it's a very good perspective, because most of the time, yes, we kind of feel that okay, the other person is giving us help, as you mentioned. It's more like a support. It's a give and take. It's not just you asking for it. It works both ways. So yeah, thank you so much for that insight, ma'am.
I like the way every time you have a different angle to it, and she says that it starts off.
Well, there's no point saying for everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, as you rightly said, some of those words help us to understand these concepts in a much evolved way. Help is a one-sided sometimes, but support is a mutual way. I think it is not saying give and take again. It is to say it's a mutual way that, I think all these terminologies changes help us to understand these changing needs of the time.
I echo ma'am's sentiments completely. If we are to speak to, if empathy is a feminine quality, I think there are nurturing qualities and special skills that women have that are absolutely important in business. Instincts, women have great instincts and an emotional intelligence that male colleagues sometimes struggle with. I think women have good gut feelings that you can go off on. But again, I think empathy without boundaries can be quite destructive. So you need to learn to balance.
Balance in art, yes.
Yes. So boundaries are key, I think, and within the framework of that. And which is why what ma'am said about, the systemic changes we are seeing now with, inclusivity and diversity and really meaning it. With that, you become more comfortable in, to operate within a more healthy atmosphere where, you feel your talents appreciated. I hope that answers.
Great. Thank you so much. I mean, that's amazing perspective actually. This is something like you have mentioned, emotional intelligence. That is something which is very inherent to a woman. And yeah, that's amazing. That should be taken as a strength.
Men don't always agree.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
One last question anybody wants? We're right.
I think the points around new leadership and empathy are becoming more and more important in today's business landscape. And I've been curious myself, how important is it now for new leaders to think and act like mothers? And if it is important, how should we balance being like a mother and being like a manager when we're being leaders?
Brilliant question.
I think it would be appropriate to ask. I mean, we have several women here. All of you have run businesses, and several of you have kids you care deeply about, and at least one here has students who he cares about like they're his kids.
Business is basically give and take, right? But motherly relation is not give and take, right? It's always just giving. Since you talk about students and the teacher relation, I think teacher is again give, but there is no take in that, right? So I feel that whenever if at all I'm wearing the shoes of being a teacher, then I can correlate it with my mother. But if at all as a CEO, I expect some returns from you guys also. Right, so, and again, like I was telling the first question that Kamal asked about certain attributes that women leaders should be having is, I connected with my mom because one of the biggest traits that my mother had was multitasking. Right, so I think I picked that up, and then I also ensure that hearing every ticket that is coming to me, be student, be faculty, it could be my team member and all of that. I handle with a lot of patients. I hear them out. I listen to every thing that comes in. In fact, the student led initiatives, like say you take MUN, I get involved in that. I wanted to hear them out. I really wanted to make sure they're all going in the right direction. So all of this thing has come from my mother because she was multitasking all the time.
Anybody wants to add to this?
I think it's a good question. And I think the first relationship we build as human beings is with our mother. And therefore it's a reference point for a long time. It's a pole star. But truthfully and honestly, a human being must learn to build many relationships. You have to move beyond your mother, you have to move beyond your father, you have to build many, many, many productive, solid, meaningful relationships in life. And therefore, as a leader as well, yes, when you don't have kids and you're young, the first reference may be your mother, but I think along the way you know that you see potential, and that's perhaps what a mother does. You know, that's the only similarity, is your mother will see your potential no matter what your mistakes are. And I think that's what a good teacher does. They see the potential of what is possible, and that's what they're nurturing and building forward. Maybe in leadership as well, you have to see the potential in your team to be able to hire them, and the potential and the vision to be able to pursue it. So there is a bud of hope in everyone and everything. It's just that you have to decide, you know, is this something you're going to nurture or not?
Absolutely. Well said, ma'am, on that. You know, so just to conclude the conversations that we had, you've told us that leadership is not just about taking one path. It's built on resilience, it's built on clarity, it's built on meaningful relationships and many other things. So thank you for being with us today and sharing all those leadership lessons for all of us to take forward, and hopefully, Padam, what you said for here would be one of those pillars in the state today to start with, which creates an absolutely beautiful ecosystem for women founders, aspiring women founders, to pick from the ideation to making it a successful venture here. And thanks for all of you for being a wonderful panel, and thanks to all of you for being a wonderful audience here. I think